Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Clockwork Apple. And this game is like a goddamn fever dream. I first got this game a few years ago, back when I was still waiting for Monster Hunter to come to the 3DS. The game had been sat on the shelf of this game store that I like to go to, and it'd been there for months. Just no one ever bought it, it'd just been there. I decided to take a risk on it. The game's name is Contact. And it's made by the Suda51's Grasshopper Studios, although it has nothing to do with Suda himself. At its core, the game is a action-adventure RPG, kind of, with sci-fi, fantasy, horror, conspiracy, life sim elements to it. In truth, it's a bit more complicated than that. But the question is it good? The game opens on a young man called Terry, who we can kind of see on the back here, right in the corner. Yeah, that's our main character, and he is... Oh, look at the amount of space they give him on this cover. He's got this little tiny section right there. The game opens on him daydreaming in the park, when out of the skies this spaceship comes crashing down to Earth and scattering all these crystals all over the place. And a scientist, who we can also see on the front cover, doing whatever it is he's doing. He emerges from the ship and tells Terry not to touch the crystal that's landed in front of him, but before he can do anything else, another spaceship that was chasing the Professor arrives and forces both Terry and the Professor to basically flee for their lives, going back into the Professor's ship and taking off again. And they eventually crash down on this desert island. The Professor explains that the people after him are called the Cosmonauts, and apparently the crystals are the ship's fuel cells. But the Cosmonauts have found a way that they can turn these crystals into another element that can be used as a weapon, or something like that. And Terry needs to find all of the crystals that have been scattered all over the world before they fall into the wrong hands. And after that, I tend to lose track of exactly what's going on in this game. I mean, this plot just gets weirder. As I said, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, conspiracy with life sim elements. That is not an exaggeration. This game's characters are difficult to describe. Terry is our typical silent protagonist, and the Professor generally acts as mission control, telling you what you need to do next in order to progress the plot. The most important character, however, is you, the player. And earlier I said the game opens on Terry, but it doesn't immediately open on Terry. It actually starts with you making contact with the Professor by tapping on the DS's touchscreen, and he answers a few questions. He asks you a few questions like what your favourite food is, where you live, that kind of thing. That, by the way, is the sole reason people compare this game to Earthbound. That's pretty much the only similarity between the two. And the Professor constantly talks to you through the top screen while you're controlling Terry on the bottom screen. Not only that, but technically speaking, you're actually playing as Terry. You're playing as yourself. You're just guiding Terry. I know that makes my head hurt. I can't quite figure out how it works, but I'll just roll with it. It's easier that way. Other characters include Mochi, a space dog who wants to be a space cat. You can just about see him down here. I don't know why he wants to be a space cat, it's never explained. I think he's just there because why not? And of course there's the Cosmonauts, who are either an advanced military unit, or a rock band, or both, maybe. And of course there's plenty of side characters as well, like there's this nudist chef who's had his clothes stolen by a monkey. Or there's an old man who has had his memories stolen by the government. Mostly the side characters are kind of just there to be there. They add a little bit of plot for whatever island you're on, and then you can pretty much ignore them after that. Some of them give you a few side quests or let you do something. They might give you a hint, but that's about it really. Most of the gameplay in Contact involves either talking to people, solving puzzles, or battling enemies. You control Terry on the bottom screen using either the buttons or the touch controls, with the top screen being dedicated to the Professor, who either just gives you hints and advice or whatever happens to pop into his head at the time. Combat is mostly automatic. Terry switches between walking mode and fighting mode. He moves slower when in fight mode, but will automatically attack nearby enemies. Terry can equip 3 types of weapon. There's bladed weapons, blunt weapons, and fist weapons. Each type of weapon gives you different stat boosts and abilities, so you can switch between them depending on what the circumstances are and what kind of enemy you're facing. Terry can also equip 7 different outfits, providing him with even further abilities. There are 4 elemental outfits, which are fire, water, earth, and wind. And there are 3 skill outfits as well, which allow you to cook, pick locks, or go fishing. All of these outfits come with combat abilities as well. Yes, even the fishing one has fighting style. I don't quite know how that works, but again, it's easier if you don't question it. Just trust me on that, don't question it. Now, Terry doesn't actually level up like most RPG characters. Instead, his stats increase by doing things. The more you attack enemies, the more your strength goes up, the more you get hit, the more your defense goes up. If you use water attacks, you'll get better at them and learn new abilities for the water outfit, and so on and so forth. Terry can use special attacks by using some of his energy points, of which he has 5. Only 5. And you can only recover energy points by beating enemies. And that means if you get into a fight against a tougher enemy and you use up all of your energy, you can't get more. You can only go back, grind against weaker enemies until your energy fills up again and have another go at the fight. Special attacks generally include long-range magic or stronger physical attacks, like a more powerful single attack or an attack that does lasting damage or a double attack. So they are quite useful, but fortunately most fights can be won just using your basic hit things attack. You don't have to worry too much about the specials until you get towards the boss fights. One of the biggest parts of this game involves using the chef outfit to cook meals for Terry. Food heals you and provides a temporary boost to some of your stats. But unlike most RPG protagonists, who can eat 47 cheese wheels in one sitting, Terry gets quite full quite quickly, meaning you either have to wait before you can eat again, or you have to try and find less filling foods to give smaller boosts. Or you could just use the potion recipe, which doesn't give any stat boosts, but it's quite easy to make, heals you a decent amount, and doesn't fill Terry very much. So, there you go, there's a hint, find the potion recipe, you might want it. Graphically speaking, this game is nothing special. The pre-rendered backgrounds are nice enough to look at, but the sprites can be pretty small. And a lot of the enemies are difficult to describe. There's one enemy that's either a cloud or a sheep or a slime or all 3. I don't know what it is because I can't see it properly to tell. And not only that, but sometimes it can be hard to tell where it is you can actually walk. I don't know if this ledge is one I can go over, is it just decoration on the ground, or is it an actual drop that I can't pass? And I actually got stuck for a while in this game because I couldn't find the path that led me to the wind outfit. And it turned out to be a completely unblocked open path that I just couldn't see properly because there was something else in the way in the foreground that was blocking my vision of it. As for the sound, the music's pretty good, if unmemorable, and the sound effects do their job well enough, except for this really annoying beeping noise whenever the professor tries to communicate with the player. It basically forces me to shut the volume off until the professor finally shuts up again. I still don't know what to say about this game. I like it, but I don't know why I like it. The gameplay is nothing special, the story makes my head hurt, and the music is forgettable. And apart from a few unique ideas, this game might as well not exist. Which frankly I'm not entirely sure it does. I can barely find any information about it on the internet to try and when I was writing this script. So I've pretty much had to do all of this by memory of playing the game. There is nothing out there about this game, so if it turns out I've just been waving around an empty box this whole time and I'm hallucinating this, I wouldn't be surprised. But this game is just unique. I think that's why I like it, because there's absolutely nothing out there that's like this game. Unique, that is the only word I can think of. So, would I recommend it? Maybe, I don't know. If you really, really like bizarre DS games, or if you just want to add something to your obscure collection, then yeah, I can definitely recommend it. There's not much that's more bizarre or obscure than Contact. If you aren't into those things, and you just want a good game, then maybe give Contact a miss. You're not really gonna lose out on anything, and I'd say the gameplay isn't worth getting it for that alone. So with that confusing mess done, I've been Mr. Clockwork Apple. Goodbye.